Hey, what's up, Liron here, and today we're going to talk about the importance of edges in watercolor. Now, normally I would demonstrate this just by showing you a full painting process and talking about how the edges play a role in it. Now, today I want to introduce you to an exercise in working those edges in an interesting way. It involves painting these beautiful abstract shapes. The fun part about this is that this abstract exercise will translate to your painting. So the next time you approach painting something that's representational, that's realistic, that's based on real life, the insights you learned in this thing will inevitably come to mind, and you'll think, oh, I need to work this edge, oh, I need to add details to this edge. So you'll see it's really helpful. It will improve your shapes, make your paintings much more interesting. So with that, let's get to it. Okay, so before I demonstrate the technique, which is going to be fairly straightforward, I just want to show you the real life application of this. Starting from a relatively abstract painting, I think that will be a really good way of showcasing this, the way of doing this. So if you look at all of these, the pear and the apple or whatever it was, a tomato, and then the background, as abstract elements, and you look at the edges there. So this shape as just an independent shape, it's very interesting. It's connected to all the rest here, the fruit, and then also you have these runny edges that really let it breathe, because if you think about this as just all perfect edges, especially with this awkward thing here that I just did real quick, it would feel very constrained, very stressful in a way. But these edges allow it to breathe, and they also allow these fruit to jump to the front. Now, when you look at this kind of an edge and transition from slightly darker to slightly lighter, doing this gradually really brings the attention to the center. Okay, so just as on a pure abstract level, this is really important. Now, when you look at this pear, the same thing happens. Within it, you have some sharp edges, and then you have these very soft edges. It kind of slides into the shadow in the background, and even though it may be inaccurate in a way, it was the right way to do this for me, because it really allows this shape to breathe, and it sends all of our focus here to the top of the fruit. Same here for the transition between the two fruits. You get this beautiful blue area that kind of melts towards both areas here. So all of the edges are very interesting, and here, as opposed to this edge, you get a very clear and defined edge, very sharp, very distinct and separate from any background that I just didn't include in this example. So that's one way of looking at it. Now, if you look at this one as a whole, and I did show you this painting, I believe it was part of the Watchtower Challenge, Day 7 Ripple. Here it's built a little differently in the overall composition, so most edges are hard and very clear, even in these reflections. But I did allow it to breathe a bit here. You see some areas that are a little more blended. And two more things is the background. Look at the background. It's all very blended and together, which makes the boat pop, the person pop, the reflection pop. And within this shadow and reflection, you get a lot of soft edges all around it. If you constrain this as one singular shape, everything inside it is blended. And it contrasts beautifully with these very clear and distinct brush marks that are just wet on dry. And the sharp contrast here in the figure. So this is the kind of a way of achieving the balance in this painting. Now, here's another one, okay, and this one's going to be in the How to Simplify course, okay? We'll see the full process of this. Look at this background shape. It's a very simple shape, just a couple of outlines for all of the buildings here, beautiful scene from Venice. And again, I let it breathe by blending out some of this edge. And look at how this edge contrasts with this sharp edge. And look at the water. In the water, the initial wash was a little wet, but then you get this beautiful, strong transition, very harsh, lots of dry brush marks, which contrast beautifully. This actually has quite a lot of shapes that are sharp. All of these boats are fairly sharp. All of this side of the background is fairly sharp. But the fact that this kind of flows into the sky, and the fact that the sky wash itself was pretty well blended, all contribute to this balance. Again, if you look at every shape individually, you get this beautiful variety of edges. Here's one from the last live stream. I wanted to show you, well, even in better quality in terms of the video, Look at again all the buildings, and if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it if you're interested in the process. All of these buildings, very sharp and clear contrasts, and then this background wash that's kind of flowy. So if you look at this shape of just the background, it has a beautiful balance between the top, the sky, and the sea. Even the proportions of them, so it's not equal, it's asymmetrical, which adds more interest. And then within those shapes here, if you isolate every shape individually, you get this beautiful shadow shape here. It's just one shape. If you really look at it, it's just connected. And within it, you get a balance of some sharp edges around it. And this beautiful transition from cool to warm within it. Okay, so you get this balance, even if the outline is full of hard edges and very clear edges. So this is the end result, but I do want to show you the technique. It's very simple. It's a combination of a lot of things I have talked to you about before. Let me actually zoom in a bit and I'll show you how I do this. It's very simple, and it's a great exercise to just do these shapes. Trust me, it's going to really help. So what you want to do is first establish some kind of a shape and use a lot of water. That's the key here. Look at how wet this wash is. Here we go. It took me a moment to catch the light. But first you drop an initial shape, and now you think about the outline. Is it interesting? Can I make it varied by doing these weird edges? Okay, just using some dry brush. Then while it's still wet, you want to do all of these things. Maybe I'll add a couple of details in there, so that could actually be the top of a building. And then maybe I'll work on blending this edge here, because here I have a lot of interest. Here I have all of these extra details. And here I am blending and softening this kind of an edge. And look at how interesting this shape is without even knowing what it actually is. And I can do some wet and wet if I want to turn this maybe into a top of a building by establishing a few lines. This is what you'd see very often for Alvaro Castanet's work. You see it's like a corner building or something like that. You don't even know, but it doesn't even matter. Let me do another one here. Let me give you a bit of a kind of a left brain weird example, okay? So here we go. I'm just gonna drop in a few lines, and then I'm gonna connect them like this. Already, this is a super interesting shape, okay? And you see how it's all connected. This is the thing, you have to get the wash to be wet enough to actually be one shape. Now this shape is interesting on the merit of the actual shape. You don't need to play around too much with the edges, but you can go ahead and kind of spray some water, get this edge to blend. You can even play with the tilting of the paper to help it move. You can take, this is what I like to often do, and again, it's just an exercise for fun. You do this multiple different shapes, is you just kind of add all of these very subtle shapes to it. You see, so this can actually be some building and construction, so you get all of these beams and different details like that. It could be many things actually. Okay, now let's so there you go. You get the interest by all of these crisscrossy lines. That's a beautiful way of doing this. Now let's try for another thing. Let's go for a simpler version now. All I'm gonna do is draw this round shape like this, and just play around with one of the edges. Okay, so we'll go like that and kind of blend it in. You see, just softening it a bit, and you see doing these rounded motions can really help contain that shape. And that's it, that's all you need. Now you can do another iteration of this kind of a shape, and so you go, and this is something I saw Stan Miller doing a lot, and it's really good. So you just put in a shape, and then you bring in the interest, and this is kind of an extra lesson. You bring the interest from the variation in color, not necessarily from the edges. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to grab some yellow, then I'm going to grab some of this blue, and you can look at it as edges as well, because you're looking at the edges between the different colors. Okay. But you can add more to that. So if you go like this, maybe it's like a globe, something like that. I don't know, it doesn't matter, as long as you're doing fun shapes and really thinking about the edges and the quality of the edges, okay? And keeping the shapes interesting. And this is really good because very often I'll see people painting, and the thing they're lacking in is interest in the shapes. And look at this, it's ridiculous, it's very abstract, but it does keep you interested. It keeps you looking at the different elements of it. Here we go, you see it in the light. Okay, it's a very abstract exercise. Again, it's very abstract. Let's try it out for another one. Let's do a bit of a different technique here. Let's pre-wet and then put in the shape. So if I'll go like this, sorry that my water isn't clean, but if I go like that, pre-wetting, or I can add this, here's the sprayer, and then I can pour into that my shape, whatever it is I want it to be, and I get a variety of edges thanks to how I pre-wet the surface or kept it dry, you see? So you get this kind of a thing. Then maybe add a bit of red to it, and you see it's the same shape, it doesn't matter. And then maybe you can connect a couple of points here. But if you can get yourself to just fill in a full page, you see I just dropped some water on it, it works really well. Or you can do this. This actually looks like a boxing ring to me now. If you just go, and you can actually turn this into an exercise of developing ideas and turning them into something that's actually representational of something in reality. But the point is, if you can do all of these shapes, it will come into play in your paintings. I assure you, you won't even have to think about it. Let's try out another one. And this is really the fun part here, is the challenge of coming up with a variety of shapes. You see I got a bit of blue and a bit of red, that's really nice. And then what I see here is that this part is already naturally beautiful, so I'll keep it like that, but I'll just work the edges a bit, you see here. And so I get some interesting transitions within the rest. And if you look at the outlines of pretty much every shape I did here, let's do this whole thing together. What you get here is some edges within the shape, so all of these wet and wets. You get a variety of shapes up top. This part is a little less defined, less clear. This part is really well blended, while this is sharp. Look at, if you just isolate this shape here, you'll really enjoy seeing it as a part of a painting because it has all of these beautiful qualities to it, of a variety of edges. This, in my opinion, can be just a full-fledged painting in its own right. And then you can obviously develop it, add some details, add some shadows down here, like it's windows or something like that. Look at this one, whatever that is. You see, it's beautiful, gradual transition here to a hard edge. Even this nice little gap we got here is very fun. Look at this one. Again, a variety of shapes in the outline, and then the blended quality comes from the middle. I know it's very abstract, but trust me, this is really gonna help you. And vary it up, keep it fun by using different colors, by using different techniques. Again, incorporate this, do some pre-wetting, use the brush to soften the edges, but this is just how important edges are in watercolor. And you can actually expand each one of these to a full-fledged like drawing. Again, if I continue these lines, I get this beautiful building kind of a thing here, maybe a street light. You can do so many things with it, but at the basis of this exercise is the interest created by edges. And this is what I want you to always have in mind. Keep it interesting. Don't allow your painting, unless that's what you're really aiming for and it's very deliberate, don't allow your painting to just be this and this and this and this and this and just a bunch of random, and I would want them to dry ideally, but a bunch of random shapes that dried already, and this makes the painting a little stale and feel almost like oils when it shouldn't be. Like if I just dry some of these and then I'll come back with some more on top of them, and it can feel disconnected. In this case, they're still pretty wet, so it still merges. But hopefully you get my point. I hope that makes sense. Now let's wrap it up. So this is it. I hope you find this helpful. Once again, very abstract shapes. I know it may seem strange, but you will find this very helpful. Trust me. Especially, again, if you look at the one in the middle, to me, that's a complete painting in a way. Once you add more values to it, and once you allow this shape to play its role within a couple of other shapes, yes, that will be a more traditional finished painting, but to me that has all you need to create interest. So I want you to have these ideas in mind. Think about the edges, think about their quality, how soft, how lost and found they are, and also the edges within a shape. if you're incorporating wet and wet in it, like doing these transitions from different colors, different temperatures. Always have that in mind whenever you just approach painting anything. Even if it's just a simple seascape, you have the sky and you have the land, think about the edges in the ocean and the line dividing where the horizon line is. Think about, do I want it to be fully hard and clear line, or do I want it to be fully blended? Is there an element that I can make pop by keeping the background kind of blurry, like I've shown you in the Santorini scene? Have all these ideas in mind. I hope you find this helpful, and I will talk to you again in the next vid real soon.